Hello, everyone. Get ready for tonight's story. Put your headphones on and listen closely. Most stories about missing persons start with a moment of realization. Someone doesn't come home. Someone doesn't answer their phone. Someone doesn't show up for work. But this story begins before the person went missing. And that detail is the reason people still talk about it. It happened to a 26-year-old woman named Emily Crane, who lived in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Madison. She worked a stable job as a veterinary assistant, lived alone in a modest one-bedroom apartment, and by all accounts lived a normal, predictable life. But one Thursday evening, something disrupted that predictable routine. It happened as she left work. She got into her car, shut the door, tossed her bag into the passenger seat, and froze. Sitting under her windshield wiper was a single sheet of paper flapping lightly in the wind. At first, she thought it was a parking ticket, or maybe a flyer someone had tossed on her car. But when she stepped out and pulled it free, she felt her chest tighten. It was a missing person poster, and the face on it wasn't just familiar. It was someone she was scheduled to meet the next morning. The name on the poster was Alyssa Werner, the young woman whose dog Emily was supposed to examine at 9:30 a.m. The owner who had confirmed the appointment only 2 days earlier with a cheerful voicemail. But the part that chilled Emily wasn't the picture or the name or the bizarre coincidence. It was the date. Reported missing, July 12th. Emily looked up at the sky. The sun was still bright, the day still warm. And then she looked back down at the date. July 12th was tomorrow. Her first thought was that it had to be a prank, or a mistake, a misprint. But the longer she stared at the crisp black letters, the more she realized something was wrong. The paper wasn't worn. It wasn't weathered. It hadn't been hanging anywhere. Someone had printed it fresh and placed it specifically on her car. Emily drove home with the poster sitting on the passenger seat, and every few minutes, her eyes drifted toward it. She kept catching the young woman's face in her peripheral vision, smiling, confident, unaware of the label printed above her head. Missing person. By the time she reached her apartment, the unease had become a low, constant hum under her skin. She considered calling the police, but what would she even say? "Hi, I found a missing poster for someone who isn't missing yet." She convinced herself it was nothing, a weird, creepy mistake, and she tried to go about her night. But later, while brushing her teeth, she glanced at her phone and noticed something that made her heart skip. A vet clinic had an online scheduling system. Every appointment auto-synced to her phone's calendar. She pulled up tomorrow's schedule and scrolled to the 9:30 slot. There it was, 9:30 a.m. Werner, Alyssa, Golden Retriever, checkup. Everything felt wrong. Seeing her name on the poster had shaken her, but seeing her on a schedule, booked, confirmed, expected, made it feel immediate, like she was reading a death sentence with a timestamp. Emily tried to sleep, but her mind wouldn't settle. She kept replaying the moment she found the poster, the way it fluttered on her windshield, as if someone had placed it just seconds before she arrived. At around 1:30 a.m., after tossing and turning for hours, she finally got up and made herself something warm to drink. As she stirred honey into her tea, she heard something soft slide under her front door. She froze. It was too light to be mail, too smooth to be a delivery. She crept toward the door and crouched down. A thin white rectangle lay on the floor. Another sheet of paper. Her stomach twisted as she picked it up and turned it over. It was another missing poster. The same face, The same name, the same date. But this one had a new line at the bottom. Last seen, 10:14 p.m., July 11th. She checked the time on her phone. 10:14 p.m. was 15 minutes ago. Emily backed away from the door, gripping the poster so tightly, the edges bent. Someone had slid this under her door moments after printing it. Someone who knew she had seen the first one. Someone who knew she was awake. She locked the deadbolt, then the chain, then placed a chair under the handle. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. When morning finally arrived, she made a decision. She was going to the clinic. She was going to wait for this woman, and she was going to see for herself whether anything was wrong. She drove with the posters in her passenger seat again, but she didn't want to look at them. The woman's smile felt sinister now, unknowing, frozen. When she arrived, the lobby was quiet. The morning appointments were usually slow. Her co-worker Mia was at the front desk, yawning into a coffee cup. Emily cleared her throat. "Hey, do you remember the client at 9:30? The one named Alyssa Werner?" Mia nodded. "Yeah, the lady with the golden. Super sweet. Why?" Emily hesitated, then placed one of the posters on the desk. Mia blinked. "What is this?" "I found it on my car yesterday." Mia frowned down at the poster. "Reported missing tomorrow? What kind of sick joke?" Before she could finish, the clinic door opened. A woman stepped in. A woman who looked almost exactly like the picture. Alyssa Werner walked into the lobby, holding the leash of a happy, panting golden retriever. Emily felt the blood drain from her face. Her fingers trembled. This woman was not missing. She was very much here, alive, normal. Emily tried to steady her breathing as Alyssa approached the counter. "Morning," Alyssa said brightly. "Here for Milo's checkup." The world didn't make sense. Emily could barely register the routine small talk that followed. She kept staring at Alyssa, looking for differences, some sign that the woman in front of her was not the same woman in the photo. But she was. Same face, same hair, same mole above the right eyebrow. When Alyssa finished signing the intake sheet, she glanced at the poster on the counter. "What's that?" Mia shifted uncomfortably and looked at Emily. But before Emily could answer, Alyssa reached down, picked up the poster, and went still. She stared at her own face, her own name, her own information. But it was the date that made her expression change. "What? What kind of joke is this?" Alyssa asked quietly. Emily felt her throat tighten. I don't think it's a joke." Alyssa swallowed hard. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Who made this?" Emily gently took the second poster from her bag and showed it to her. The one with the timestamp. The one printed 15 minutes before being slid under her door. Alyssa's hand clamped over her mouth, and her dog whined softly at her sudden panic. Mia stepped out from behind the counter. "Emily, maybe you should call someone?" Emily nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think we should." But before she could reach for the phone, Alyssa spoke. "No, not police. Please." The woman looked terrified. "You don't understand," she whispered. "This isn't the first time." Emily felt cold creep down her spine. "What do you mean?" Alyssa swallowed, trembling. "For the past week, I keep finding weird notes on my car, on my porch, at work." She paused. "They all say someone is watching me." Emily exchanged a look with Mia. Alyssa's voice grew softer. "And last night, I thought someone was following me." Emily felt a chill in the air, but before anyone could react further, the clinic door swung open again. A man stood in the doorway, tall, thin, pale, expressionless. He didn't look at anyone except Alyssa, and the moment she saw him, she gasped and stumbled backward. "That's him," she whispered. "That's the man who's been watching me." Emily stepped forward. "Sir, you can't be in here. Do you need—" But the man didn't acknowledge her. He stepped inside, staring directly at Alyssa, and his voice came out low and calm. "You weren't supposed to come here today." Alyssa grabbed her dog's leash tighter. "Stay away from me." Mia reached for her phone. Emily stepped forward again, heart racing. "You need to leave." But the man only tilted his head, as if confused. Then his gaze drifted slowly to the posters in Emily's hand. He smiled faintly. "You shouldn't have shown those to her." Emily felt her blood run cold. "How did you—" The man took another step toward Alyssa. "You need to come with me now, before they find you first." Alyssa shook her head violently. "I'm not going anywhere with you." He took a final step, and then something happened that Emily could never fully explain. Alyssa's dog lunged, not at the man, but away from him, dragging Alyssa hard enough that she tripped and fell backward. The leash slipped from her hand, and the golden retriever bolted toward the back room, whining and scrambling. The man lunged forward, not toward the dog, not toward Emily, toward Alyssa, but he never reached her. Emily hit the panic alarm under the counter, and a piercing siren filled the clinic. The man's expression shifted instantly, from calm to furious to something unrecognizable. He spun toward Emily, eyes darkening. "You don't know what you've done." Emily backed into the counter, breath shaking. Mia shouted from behind her, "The police are coming." For the first time, the man hesitated. He looked at Alyssa one last time, an expression that wasn't anger, but something closer to desperation. Then he turned and ran, straight out the door, disappearing into the street. When officers arrived minutes later, they searched the surrounding area, but found nothing. What they did find was the man's car parked down the block. Inside the trunk were dozens of missing person posters, all of them dated before the person had vanished, and all of them had come true, including one more poster tucked into the glove box. The ink was still wet. It listed a name, a time, a date: Alyssa Werner, July 12th, 11:06 a.m. She went missing 3 hours later. Security footage showed her leaving the police station after giving her statement, crossing the street toward her car, her dog trotting beside her. And then, just before she reached the driver's side door, she stopped, turned, looked at something off camera. Her expression shifted from confusion to realization to pure terror. And then she ran, out of frame, out of sight. She hasn't been seen since. Emily still has the posters. She keeps them locked away in a drawer she never opens, because some people believe the man was stalking Alyssa, but others believe something else, something much more disturbing, that he wasn't predicting disappearances. He was warning them, that he was trying to save people before something else took them, something that doesn't show up on security cameras, something that no one ever sees coming, something that finds you the moment your name appears on a missing person poster. And the only reason anyone knows this story is because Emily found the first poster before it became true, before tomorrow became today, before Alyssa Werner became one more name, on a poster no one can explain. Thanks for listening to the story. If you enjoy the story, make sure to like the video. It really helps the channel. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe and turn on notifications. Stay safe and stay aware of what's coming tomorrow.